Hey y'all. So I got another story time for you. I got a whole bunch of them. Like, I need to just start posting these. All right. So a couple years ago, I knew that was going to fall. A couple years ago, when we had first moved in the house. Well, no, we probably was living here for probably a year or so. Cause by then when I first moved here, I had a Buick, and then I got my Volkswagen, and then I got my Journey. So this is my third car. So I'm gonna say that was 2015 when I got that. So 2016, we moved here 2014. Anyway, so we now Marcia had a big Ram 1500, and then I had my Journey. So I like parking in the back. Park in the back, go through the back. She liked parking in the front. So I will always park my Journey in the back. So Leland, we would take Leland to school and we would rotate cars. So one morning we would take her car, next morning we'd take my car, however we did. So this particular morning, it was my turn to take them. But I stole Marcia car keys and I was like, I'm going to take her car. So I took her car and I was off that day, so I came back in the house, I went to sleep. So went and got Leland in her car and never even thought about it. Like, never was like, oh, let me go get my car. So finally we was running to the store. So I was like, she's like, well, we drove your car. I mean, my car, we'll take your car. So I'm like, oh, all right, cool. So we come out the back door. And of course, I'm pulled in. So the front of the car is facing the back door. Whereas though now I'm parked, the trunk of the car is facing the back door. But I had my car the opposite way. So when I walked out the back door, I got right into the driver's seat. So Marcia had to walk around. Now, in the midst of this, I don't know how we didn't notice. Oh, I know how. Okay, so in the midst of this, we walked around and Marcia opens the door. She gets in, and when she gets in, I heard boom. So I'm like, what the fuck? I'm like, yo, like, you slammed the door hard as shit. You broke my window. She like, how could I have broke the window? All I did was shut the door. I said, Marcia, the glass is all in the car. So she like, I didn't break your window. So I'm like, what the fuck? Now listen, okay. So she gets out, we get out the car and we looking. So we like, what the fuck? Now, let me rewind back to the night before. So the night before, we had went to the market. The kids had wanted lunch for the next day. So I was like, all right, well, I'll go grab some lunch meat and then I'll get them something, something for dinner. So I do that and I'm parking my car in the back. So it was this drunk guy. She looked like she up to no fucking good. So it was this drunk guy that lived on the opposite street. Ain't nothing over here for you, miss, because she looking to get in my trash. So it was this drunk guy that lives on the next block. So he comes out in the back and he usually drinks and stuff like that. So he was walking in the middle of the street. I mean, in the middle of the driveway. And he was staggering. Now, I live three houses from the corner. So all I had to do was turn in and park. So he's staggering. So he's like standing there and I'm like, can you get out the way? So I beeped the horn. So he started fussing and cussing. Fuck you. Da-da-da-da-da. So I'm like, what? I'm like, listen, I don't got time. Like, I got shit to do. I got to feed my kids. Like, go ahead about your day. So he's still fussing and cussing, but he moved. So we parked and we got out and he's, was walking. So never thought nothing about it. Went about his day. He was drunk. Mind you, I see this man every day because he sits outside in the back with all the older guys that sit out there. Now, this guy his name is Vladimir or something like that. He's like Russian or something. I don't fucking know. So I didn't think nothing of it. So that's when the next day we come outside and we see the window is bust. So we snapping. Because at the end of the day, that has to get paid for. So I'm like, oh shit. Let me look at the camera. This pussy, and I don't think I might still have it in my phone. I'm going to look. But this pussy climbed up onto my back door and took the camera. Matter of fact, I'm gonna show y'all real quick. This pussy climbed up onto the back of my damn thing. Now, I'm gonna show y'all where the camera is at. So the camera is right here, right? And my car was parked right here. So he climbed up, and I can't flip the camera while I'm recording. He climbed up there and took the camera and pointed the camera down. Now, I can't even climb up here. I don't know what he did, but he climbed up there. He put the camera down. But mind you, you see him. Now, he live over here. So you see him. Mind you, this is all on camera. He walking up to the car. So he like this. He walking up. He looking in the car. You know, he doing stuff. He walking around it. And then he walks all the way out the way and goes up and like comes off the side and goes up and climbs and push the window down. So I'm like, I meant the camera down. So I'm like, you fucking nut. Like, you fucking weird as shit. So I'm like, oh, all right. So now I got proof that you fucking did it. So I called the cops and I'm like, listen, I need to make a police report, because Mercy, like, you gotta be legal. So I was like, listen, fuck that. So she was like, oh, I'll be back. So I'm like, all right. So she went to her godmother's house. So I go knock on his door. So I'm like, why the fuck did you bust my windows? He like, I don't know. Now listen to this. Hold on. Let me rewind. So when we came outside, now mind you, we didn't come outside till 6:30. He sat on his fucking balcony and waited until we came outside. He smiled when he realized that I knew that my window was bust. And he took his happy ass in the house. So that's when I went banging on his fucking door. So he had like a daughter at a time. She had to be about 7. So she's standing in the doorway with him and his wife. Oh, no, I'm sorry, it was his mom. And the little girl crying. I'm like, listen, I don't give a fuck about your kids at this point. Because not once did you give a fuck about my kids. You didn't even think about what the fuck you was doing. Now, he busted right on Leland's fucking car seat. So we had to throw the car seat in the trash. I mean, it was so... I'm going to put the pictures on here. It was so much fucking glass. Now, in my journey, I had the regular back window. And then I had the little back window. So he took a chisel and tried to bust the back window. But he couldn't bust it because it was so thick. But it penetrated it and the glass broke. But it didn't break. It didn't fall out. It just was shattered. So we called the cops or whatever. So I went to his house, cussed him out, whatever. I was ready for war. Like, I wanted to fight. I'm like, call anybody at this point. Anybody. I have no picks. So we go back around. Now my job said it's like 6:30. The cops didn't come till like 8:30. So the cops come, they ask us what happened. So they make the police report. You know, they tell us, you know, you got to call, get the number, whatever. And we showed them the video. We showed them the video, and then they go about their way. All right, so this story a little long. So then Marcia come back. Now, mind you, I told you she had the Ram. So she comes back to the house. So she like, you ready, babe? So I'm like, it's whatever. Like, it's whatever. So we throw our sneakers on. We hop in the truck. Now, mind you, the car is parked. The truck is parked in the front. We ride around to the back. He has like a old pickup truck, probably like from the 1980s, 1990s, something like that. So he got it parked in his driveway, and everybody is outside, and he's in the house. So we pull up, and Marcia got a bat in her hand. She gets out the car. Now, mind you, this kind of low-key turned me on, because I ain't never see her. Like, I'm always the rowdy one. I'm always the one that's like, I smack the shit out of a bitch. I run up on a bitch, all that. Marcia usually one that's like, come on, babe, it ain't even worth it, ain't it? You know, and I'm like, whatever. This fucking day, she hopped out that fucking truck. And you know we little. We only 5'2", 5'3". She hopped out that fucking truck. She went over to that fucking car. She swung that shit back with all that force in her motherfucking tiny arms. Bust out all those windows but one. Now, mind you, I'm standing on top of the truck now. And I'm like, you fucking pussy. I'm like, this is exactly what the fuck you get. You lucky we don't come tear that fucking house up. Like, we snapping. Like, she fucking the windows up. So, mind you, all you hear is boom, boom. Tiana came running to her window, looking out the window, and then they made her run outside. And then mind you, at this time, Marcia brother lived with us, and he is tiny as hell, and he probably like 5'5". So he comes running out the back, and he like, oh my god, like, cause honestly, it ain't nothing he could do. So, all right, so it's the front window, and then the two windows, and I think he had two in the back, and then it's the back window in the truck. So Marcia didn't get the back window, and she didn't get one of the windows, because I'm like, all right, babe, like, you chill. Like, at one point I'm like, all right, now you snapping the fuck out. So she's like swinging the bat, and I'm like screaming like, babe, stop. Like, but I'm trying not to get hit with the fucking bat, but I'm like, yo, chill. So she was like, no, fuck that nigga, like, da-da-da-da-da. So I'm like, oh my god. So we hops in the truck. And mind you, we are 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. We're 6 houses away. So we didn't necessarily need to get in the car. We could have just walked out the back door and walked over there. So we hop in the car, go around, park the car, and then come out through the back. Because now he comes out in the back, and he's screaming and hollering, hooping and hollering. So I'm like, listen, I don't give a fuck about what you talking about at this point, because you didn't give 0 fucks when you bust my windows. You didn't think about my kids. You want me to give a fuck about your daughter? I don't give a fuck about her. So she's on the balcony screaming and crying like, oh my daddy. And I'm like, I don't give a fuck. That's how my kids felt. Oh my god, I never seen his wife. So the guy that I just said I never seen his wife, he pulled me to the side and was like, he bust your windows out. He was like, but you know, like, nobody gonna say nothing. And I'm like, that's crazy. Like, he like, yeah, I seen him bust your windows. He did it like around 9:05. So this is the thing, right? He put my camera down. He knew the time that we left out the house. He knew that we got out in the morning and we took the kids to school. So he knew, I guess he thought like we was going to take that. He knew we was going to take the kids to school. And I guess he was going to wait until we came back. But since we never came back, we never came out here, we didn't take them. But see, this is where he fucked up at, is because when Marcia's brother was living with us, he came outside at 9, because he had to go to work. He had to be to work at 9:30. So he came outside at 9 o'clock and he took the trash out. So Marcia's brother seen him. No, I'm sorry. He busted my windows at like 9:15. And Marcia's brother seen him at like around like 9:05. And he seen him around 9:05. And that's when he was looking. So he was walking over here when they both were out here. And Marcia's brother seen them, and she didn't really, he didn't really think like, what he was doing. He thought he was just walking down the driveway, because like I said, he's always out here. So we calculate the time we sitting there, like before, after all this happened, that's when we end up, calculating the time. But anyway, when we was outside in the backyard, we was, hooping and hollering. I kept like lunging at him, because like I really wanted to just smack the shit out of him or spit on him or something, because I'm like, you're fucking corny. You only did that because it was 2 females that lived in the house. I don't think they knew anything about her brother being here, but they knew that me and Marcia lived here. They knew that it was 2 females. But if it was a nigga living here, he would have never done it. A grown-ass man, he would have never done that. So I'm like, you a nut, like, you corny. Like, so he calls the cops, and the cops come. So the cops like, this story's a little long, because it get a little bit deeper. So the cops come, so they like asking us. So when the cops come, we like, I don't know. I don't know what happened. So the cops like, so y'all don't know who busted his windows? So I'm like, no, I know he busted my windows for a fact. So the cops had like came in our back door, and I pulled up the video. Now mind you, I'm live streaming all this. because I know how motherfuckers play. So luckily it was black cops. So the cops was like, well, honestly, only thing he could do is make a police report because there's no proof that he did it. I mean, you know, he's like, they was like, there's no proof that y'all did it, so there's nothing that he could do. So I'm like, yeah, that's fucked up. Like, that's crazy. So we show the cops the video. So when we go back outside, he like, because there's been people around the neighborhood and they've been slashing people's tires. I'm like, what do slashing people's tires have to do with busting out windows? You know for a fact that you bust out my window. Like, that ain't have anything to do with slashing tires. So anyway, that went on or whatever. The cops end up leaving, and that was that. So we go get the car fixed. So Marcia paid for my windows to get fixed, so she took them to my uncle. So being as though my car was that year, it was expensive. My car was a 2015, and it literally was like 2016. Like, it wasn't, the car didn't even have 10,000 miles on there yet. Yeah, 10,000 miles yet. So oh no, I'm gonna roll the window. So he was like, so my uncle like, well, you know, y'all gonna have to find the windows, whatever. So, but he asked like, well, what happened? Like, how'd your windows get bust? So Mercy, and I told Mercy, I said, don't tell him. My uncle is not one of the type of people that you tell this stuff to, because he throwed off. And then the guy is white. So my uncle, like my uncle is like, you know, fuck all them white people. I ain't working for none of them. You know, they ain't going to slave me. He one of them type of people. So I was like, don't tell him. Just make up something. So she like, no, fuck that. He that, you know, da-da-da-da. So she tells my uncle. So my uncle starts snapping. He like, where he live at? And my uncle real calm. So he like, where he live at? So she like, yeah, he live around the corner of us. She like, what's his ad? He like, what's his address? So she like, da-da-da-da. She like, you ain't do nothing to him? So Mercy was like, no, like, you know, we asked him to move. So she going down the line, and he like, I'm gonna fuck this nigga up. I'm like, no. He like, can't tell me what to do. I'm your uncle. I'm like, Marcia, please, we already done got him back. Just let it go. Like, don't tell him nothing else. He's fucking crazy. Like, you want to get some crazy shit happening, my uncles don't play. So I'm like, just let it go. So she ended up getting the windows fixed. Went ahead about our day. So I'm gonna say a good 2 years later, I get this thick packet in the mail. So it's like, it's from Judge Judy, I guess. So it's like, oh, you've been summoned to court against Vladimir, whatever. And then his information was private. So I'm scared, because I'm like, oh my God, like, what the fuck is this? Like, what did I do? I'm like, why do I have a case against me? Bitch, $2,500. I said, who the fuck is suing me for $2,500? What the fuck did I do? So I'm not even gonna fraud. I'm not even gonna lie. Like, I was low key scared. Like, I'm like thinking, like, what the fuck have I done? Like, and it's on my mind constantly. So, it tells you like to respond or whatever, and in the details of it, it was in LA. So they pay for 4 people to come with you, like 4 witnesses to come with you, you plus 3 other people. And they give you vouchers for the 3 days that you're there to eat. You get breakfast, lunch, and dinner for each day. Like, they give you a certain amount of money. It was like $50 each, $50 for each meal each day. So, and then they pay for your hotel. They pay for transportation for you to, you know, get wherever you're going. And then they also pay you, I think it was $1,000 to just appear on the show. And then they also pay like whoever won. I mean, like, so if I had to pay him 2,500, they would pay the 2,500 for me. So before I read all that, I was like, I'm not going to that shit. Like, cause I'm not going there. Like, I'm just not. So the Marcia was like reading all the details, and she was like, no, babe, we should go. Cause even if you lose, you don't have to pay. Or if you do one against him, like if you counter to him, then you get the money. So I'm like, oh, all right. I'm like, and so she's like, and they pay for your flight. You know, you could take up to 3 other people. So I'm like, all right. So I'm like thinking about it. So I'm like, all right, well, me, you, her brother gonna go, and then I take somebody else, like Cash, my niece. So we end up not replying to that one, and we got another one from another judge. I forgot his name. Judge, was it Joe Brown? I think it was Judge Joe Brown. And so we called and we was like, all right, we're gonna come, we're gonna do it. So they couldn't get in contact with him, so that's why we didn't end up going on the show. So then that was done. So I'm like, okay, fuck it. So a couple months later, I get another thick packet, but this one is from the city of Philadelphia, and it's like, you've been summoned to court. So I'm like, oh, so he took me to small claims court. I'm like, okay. So I go to so me and Marcia go to small claims court, and her brother couldn't go. So I'm fucking nervous. You ever be so nervous like you gotta take a shit, like your stomach just be fucked up? Like I was so nervous. So we had to be there at 9:30. We get there and we're waiting and waiting. When I tell you, we did not get seen until 2:00. We were the third people. This one case went forever. Like, so if y'all ever watched the show The Haves and the Haves Not, the black judge, that's what this judge looked like. So finally he gets to my case. So he calls us up. So I have everything printed out. I have the video already pulled up on my phone. I have the police reports. I have everything. So I'm like, let's go. So he calls us up there, and because I'm sorry. So before you go in there, they let you see a mediator. So we go see the mediator. So the mediator like, okay, well, you know, this is your opportunity to settle it before y'all go to the judge. So, you know, do y'all want to settle it? So he was like, well, if you give me $1,500, you know, we can forget it. I said, I'm not paying you $1,500. Like, you bust my windows. So he like, I didn't bust your windows. So we like kind of got into like a little debate. And she's like, well, no, we can't do that. We was just giving y'all the opportunity to settle. She was like, so you're not going to pay him the $1,500? I said, no. She's like, okay, well, it's nothing that we could do. Y'all going to see the judge. So I'm like, okay, like, fuck it. So then we get to our case or whatever. So we finally go. So, like I said, I'm like nervous. So Mercia's like trying to calm me down. She like, you know, relax, babe. It's okay. Like, you good. Like, I'm like, it's easier said than done. Like, I've never been in this situation before. So I'm nervous. Like, well, actually I have. But that's another story time. So anyway, so we go, so we get up there. So the judge, is like, okay, what happened? So he starts telling his side, right? So the judge like, I don't understand. So he's like trying to tell the judge, and the judge like, this is not making no sense. So she just walked up to your car and just bust your windows out. So he says this, no. She didn't bust my windows out. She did, the other girl. So the judge was like, well, you don't have a case against her. You have a case against her. Talking about me. So the judge was like, so you seen them bust your windows out? So he like, yeah. So he was like, well, do you have any videos, any, you know, proof? So he like, no. So he like, well, how can you say that she bust your windows out? So he like trying to go back and forth. You know, we're not understanding. So the judge was like, let me hear from you, miss. So I'm like, hello. So he like, hi. So he like, what happened? So I'm like, on such and such day, I'm giving them dates, times, and everything. I'm like, I'm driving through my backyard. I'm trying to park. He was drunk, belligerent, screaming F you, this, be that. And he, so then the next morning, he's walking down the street. My brother-in-law seen him standing by my car, and then he climbs up onto my back window, and he puts my camera down, and then he proceeds to go around the other side and bust my window out. So the judge was like, what? Do you have any videos, anything? So I was like, yes. So I pulled it up, so they gave it to him. So he brings it back. So then the judge goes, this is ridiculous. So he got like something, he's like, this is ridiculous. And he like threw it down, and he was like, this is a criminal case. He was like, y'all not supposed to be in my office with this. Y'all supposed to be in a whole completely different court. He said, Miss Pettigrew, you should have took his ass to court. You should have pressed charges against him, because why did he do that? So I'm like, I don't know. I was like, I could show you the video from the night before when he was in the hallway. In the walkway, the driveway, being belligerent and stuff. So the judge was like, you must have been out your mind if you thought that I was going to award you $2,500 if you bust this lady windows. He was like, and even if she did bust your windows, you deserved it. Why would you bust her windows out? So I showed him the pictures of my car, the car seat, everything. And he was like, no, this is crazy. He was like, I'm throwing this case out. I'm not awarding you anything. And he was like, what, judge? He was like, it's settled. That's it. Defendant, he's like, plaintiff, this case is dismissed. You're not going to be awarded anything. And he hit the gravel. And I was like, oh my God. Like, that was a fucking sense of relief. Like, I was just so fucking overjoyed. I walked out like, you mad. I ain't do that to him. I was just saying that in my head. So when we got back around the way, he had this, like the car thing over his car. He had his car parked there for about a good 3 years before he moved it, with the windows still bust. When I tell you, since that day we went to court, I've never seen that man again. When he lost that case, I've never seen him again. He don't sit out in his back no more. He don't come sit out with the guys around here. Nothing. Never seen him again. I don't know if anything happens to him. I honestly don't even see anybody at that house. I did see a car parked there a couple times, but I don't see them no more. But it's like, oh well. You thought you was going to have your little be privileged and everything was going to be good, and you was wrong. That shit was crazy. And after that, ain't nobody fuck with us around here again.